Yo guys, today's guest is Danielle Cross, a prolific Sydney abstract artist. We talked to her today about building a brand through social media, about leveraging your connections to highlight your awareness, and then also challenging social norms and how much of an impact that can have on your business. So let's get into it, guys. Welcome to Dismantle. Danny, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm actually really excited to chat to you because we've had a lot of talks around art, but mostly around what that kind of means and how you talk about that. And I almost feel like we talk about things relating to your art, but that have absolutely nothing to do with it.
That's one way to put it.
Like, it's almost like a conduit to real talk. Like, I don't think I've ever actually spoken about any of your pieces.
No. It's always been concepts and things around it.
Yeah. How do you come up with those sort of concepts? Because I feel like that's when you actually come more alive, is when we're talking about the stuff behind the work.
So I feel art allows you to play the character in your life. So all the concepts that I come up with do have real life sort of factors there that whether I've experienced, friends experienced, I've observed it. I love people watching. I love watching how people move and they're picking up emotions from that, picking up their energy from that. So as much as I'm a talker, I'm a pretty big observer and a listener, and real life, I suppose, the art becomes real life and real life becomes the art. That's the kind of perfect storm with that, I feel. But I think art has that platform to allow people to express themselves, you know, whether it's all from music to everyone expresses themselves differently, but art's been a medium that I've chosen and has allowed me to sort of work through things, I suppose, in life that I may have not if I didn't have that platform, because you just feel such a freedom in it. And it's not me, but it is me.
What did you need freedom from?
I think you've just got to grow as a person. I think who I was 10, 15, 5 years ago is so different to who I am today. So I think it allows you to explore things to a deeper level when you can play that character or have that facade, or because I feel I like to keep a little bit to myself. And being an Aries, they love to overshare and tell everyone everything. And
you love to just tell people you're an Aries.
Yeah, that's exactly. There we go. That is it. That is me. But I think it just, it allows me to keep that little bit of an arm's distance, which I feel is a security safety net.
You said you have changed. When I was researching some of your stuff, and if anyone... We're not really going to chat about the whole like background of how you got into things. You know, there's plenty of articles out there about, you know, going to Enmore Design School and your dad's a builder and, you know, how you developed through art since high school and all that kind of stuff. So anyone can go check that out. But what I was more interested in is the pictures that accompanied a lot of those articles were a nice, wholesome, blonde, long-haired housewife who looked really docile, like they're baking a cake for everybody to hide their emotions in the kitchen. And it's such a juxtaposition to the Danny that I know now. What the fuck happened, girl?
That was all fake too. No. I was just, my background, not to go into it, but married young, had 2 young kids. My husband travelled a lot for work, so we sort of moved interstate, moved overseas. There's always been that element, like anyone that's known me from a very young age, I've always had that push the boundary, talk a bit inappropriately, say different things to provoke people. I've always had that element of it. I suppose back then I didn't have the confidence to do something with it. And I suppose as I've got older, been experienced to more things, life's hardened you up a little bit. Yeah. I think my confidence and in being free to be who I want to be has come along. So God, I look terrible with long hair. Why didn't someone tell me to cut that earlier?
like, what's been your most emotional piece to date? Because I feel like there's somewhere between that girl and the woman here that something happened, something changed in your life or in art or how you approach something. Like, what was it? Can you think of a series that was just like the most soul-involved, heart-pouring pieces?
I think it is the Provocateur collection for sure.
Yeah, which is just a bunch of bare asses.
That's bums, that's boobs, that's water, that's all that. Because I think it was the first time that I did it for me in whatever headspace I was in at that time, and I really didn't back myself I didn't think it'd go where it's gone. And I think it's not only about the art piece, but it's also about the conversation that art piece makes. And that's what I love to do. I want the conversation, I want the storytelling. And I always feel with the art too, I create it from somewhere, but what you see in it is something completely different, or what everyone sees in it, depending on what experiences they've gone through. I lost one of my best friends 3 years ago, and I do feel that the lead up to her passing, it just shook me to the core, because I never, I suppose I've been quite sheltered from grief-stricken type things. One day you're one person, and then you wake up the next day and you're a completely different person. And I think that in the lead up, and that person in particular was she was very close to me, and she just backed my art all the way. So even at the times when I was dipping in confidence and, should this really be where I should be pushing it and putting the time, the energy and all that sort of stuff, should I go back to interior design? She always kept pushing me, going, no, you've got something here. And she was quite a energy reading type person. She picked up a lot. We had a lot of deep conversations about life and past lives and from where to, from here, and all that sort of stuff. So that shook. I didn't realise it did. Obviously, I felt, I was pretty shaken up and sad about it all, but I really didn't realise how much it was going to change me and move me as a person, and what I stand for and what I don't, and how I operate my life now. Yeah. And I think that sort of Provocateur was a bit of time after that, but that just threw me into, I don't care. I love what I've created here, and it's going out, and whatever happens, and
Did you feel like you had to be stronger without that support, or like when you say it changed you?
Yeah, I feel there's a real contrast there, because I feel like I've never been a vulnerable person. I've always been put the wall up, just keep everyone at arm's distance, because that's a safety thing, and has been since I was a young child. Yeah. So I think having like a death and a loss really hardened me, but then all of a sudden I had to be vulnerable, because it was the only thing I could do, because I was falling into a heap. And then then I started leaning on people that I probably normally wouldn't. It was just a really confusing time. Yeah, when I ended up being vulnerable, I probably leant on people that I probably shouldn't have, and not gone to the ones that I should have. So it was just a really, really, really big learning curve. But I've come out the other side, I suppose. Or I'm a work in progress, they say. But I think that was a big thing in life, and I think if people haven't gone through something similar to that, and not like everyone goes through losses, everyone has things, like everyone is carrying something, or so that's why with everyone how judgy they are, and so funny with Instagram and how everyone judges, yet they've got no idea what's really going on. So I think, but unless you go through something that hardcore, I don't think you get it. So I think it's also not putting expectation on your core group of people to always get it. They're not all going to get it. And some of them, and all of a sudden you're sort of thrown into a club and you've joined this group that you didn't even know existed. And so then you have a lot more empathy and all that. So I suppose it hardens you, but then all these other traits sort of rise to the surface, and you learn a little bit more about yourself.
So I guess there was a time you mentioned that you did want to sort of give up on the art and go back to getting a day job as close as one as you could possibly do. I wish I could do that
sometimes. I really wish that was in my core to do that. I've tried.
Yeah, sure.
My dad thinks I have anyway.
And this friend obviously pushed you through it. What was, were you finding any commercial success before that point anyway?
Look, it ended up happening. I've always done the art for myself, all the original painting and that. Yeah. I've always done that since a young child. And then I did all my interior design, but kept painting because that was just my release. And that was always just something for me.
Yep.
We moved back to Sydney after a stint interstate, and we were at dinner actually with one of the partners in a restaurant in Sydney, Mississippi. And we were just talking about art and whatnot. And he goes, well, look, if you've got enough to do an art show here, why don't we do one here? We've got the DJ, we've got the fun out there like you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. No, yeah, I suppose I do. So I just did it. I didn't think about it. Had this night. It was such a success. Sell out. Was mentioned in the paper. Everyone started talking about it. And it honestly, the rest is history. It really is. I always thought that was quite cliche, but that's how it sort of went. And then just from there, just some good interior design clients that got me into some amazing homes. And so it's just been, I'm a real feeler. So I feel through it. So if that job didn't feel right, then I didn't go for it. And then somehow I've ended up here and in this photography realm, which I am not a photographer. I'm an artist that uses a camera instead of a paintbrush sometimes.
You like saying that?
I do, because
a shit photographer?
Because photography is a science. A proper photographer that's next level.
Yeah.
I am not that, and I never profess to be that. Yeah. I like the freedom that the camera allows me to have when editing and doing sort of that creative process.
Yeah.
I'm pretty staunch about keeping myself very separate from the photography.
I like it.
World.
Let's go back to Provocateur, because I think you're right. That series was sort of my introduction to you as well, which was a breath of fresh air from nice pictures of flowers, which was the one before.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, I'm so not a flower person. That's my way of hardening the flowers up, because
it felt a little bit corporate, the flower thing. But we started talking, we worked in the same building for nearly a year before we actually started chatting, and it was around that Provocateur series. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit of background of that, and was it a bit of was it that time where you go, I don't give a fuck if I sell any of this stuff, I'm just going to make some things? And
I want to make some noise.
One of your most successful one, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it probably fell into, life imitates art and art imitates life. I think I was really struck at that time through the vulnerability and leaning on people that were very foreign people to lean on, I suppose. So I think I really wanted to explore in life when we all come across these connections with people. So the Provocateur, that's where it all stems from. Society has this thing that, you get married and that person's your everything, and they've got to be your best friend and your lover and all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden you go, I personally went through all these other things, and so I started leaning on all different range of people for different things. So I started really wanting to have a conversation and push it out there, because I think everyone finds their connections, whether it's the guy making a coffee or the girl that, I don't know, anywhere. We all make these connections, but we're all so judgy, and we're all so that one fits all.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, I didn't mind it. It wasn't really about if I sold any. It was just to provoke a conversation.
Absolutely.
And depending on what they had gone, I'd gone through my own personal thing with it, but everyone I scratched the surface with came out with something. Everyone has something.
Because there's a lot of taboo around even doing that stuff as well, right?
Totally. And that's where I like to get everyone to feel a bit comfortable in the uncomfortable with that sort of stuff. Because I think we're so stringent in society, and we're so told what to do or how to wear your hair or what, everything is so edited that I thought, let's just break out a little bit. And I think because I didn't really care how it was taken or if it sold, I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I just feel that I did scratch the surface with a lot of people, and I think that's and I think it's also too there's a beauty in it. Absolutely. So it's also subject matter, but then it's also it's also the compositions and the colours and the movement. And
no, my favourite thing was at the launch event when typical kind of art showing, we're all there looking at pictures, and then all these couples are walking around going, oh, that's a nice piece, yeah, that water looks lovely, and then Danny gets up and goes, oh yeah, it's all about cheating and getting behind people's backs and the connections you're making and you see everybody kind of like tense up, and normally there's one of the two couples is like, yeah, that's the one.
One of the eyebrows was raised higher than the other, or there was a twitch.
Yeah. There was a lot of really silent car rides on the way home that night.
But I provoked something, didn't I?
There's a couple of really interesting things from that is, we're doing this show because we want to highlight the business and the selling and the entrepreneurial aspect of artistry and that creative industry. Mm-hmm. To the point where, our base is creatives need to learn how to sell their work. So how to sell their value to the market so they can get paid and have a career in the industry. But you've got that great example of the other way where sometimes you can't have an intent of, I'm going to make art to sell. Your intent has to be, it's got to get back to the art sometimes. Yeah. And it is creativity, and it's conversation, and it's connection to other human beings.
Well, it's got to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think if someone's going to buy a piece of artwork, they really are buying a piece of that artist, or the story of that artist, or how they created at that period of time in their life. And that's gone through, from Picasso's to everything. You're buying a piece of that artist. So I think there's the fine line between doing what you want to do creatively and artistically and in that sort of realm, but I really feel that if you want to make it a business and you want to make money and feed yourself and buy your clothes and do what you want to do, like you've got to understand your customer as well. Yeah. So there's some of the collections, not so much as I'm getting older, but some of like the flower collection, Where the Wild Things Are, that was when I was going through a lot of the grief stuff, and it was all about love and loss. And so really quickly on that one, I'm not a floral person, but I know florals sell in the marketplace from interior design, and I know everyone likes the soft colours, but then they do like the blacks and whites. So I'm educated enough from my background to understand what a client,
Which is super important.
That's right, and trends and things like that. Yeah. But then from the artistic view, I found flowers to be really confronting in these funeral times, and what they stand for and their fragile nature and all this sort of stuff made me really uncomfortable. So that's why from there, as much as I knew my client likes their flowers, but I also wanted to make the concept a bit more grittier, so I peel back a lot of the colour. That's right. So I think I married that idea of being able to sell art, but also doing what's true to you as the artist. I think that was sort of one of the most successful collections that I've done to date that keeps everyone in mind, I suppose, keeps the client and me happy.
Awesome. So back to the commercial side of things, I think it is important to talk about sort of acquisition of clients, how you kind of build up that business database and sales, and sort of start getting paid for your work, particularly as an artist. What I would like you to talk about, because I think you've done it really well, is build up a brand for yourself. Not just the artworks themselves, but Danny X as a brand, as an Instagram influencer. Vomit in my mouth.
That word. Oh my God. Influencer. We've got to think of a new word.
Do you feel like you influence people through your social media?
I provoke people through my social media.
Really? Is that actually what you think you do?
Yeah. So I learnt with Instagram, you couldn't beat it, you had to join it.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time early on, not consciously, not consciously think I was doing. I think just subconsciously I was just trying to learn as much as I could about it. Yeah. And then I learned early on that you know, when you look at that grid, if it's just art, everyone gets bored.
Totally.
You've got 2 seconds for people's, you know, visual to look at it, and every artist I'd look at that it was like that, I got bored. So I flicked off.
Portfolio,
yeah. So I also knew that being, you know, traditionally the art world, I suppose, is quite intimidating. You don't really have access, I suppose, you know, in the past, you didn't really have access to talking to the artist and meeting the artist and understanding a bit more about the artist.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't probably think, but all of a sudden I started creating this persona of, not even a persona, I suppose it really was me. Just, I wanted them to know who I was. I wanted them to know where I ate or partied or, you know, what dress I bought or, that I've just, like, I'm just like everyone else type thing. And the moment I did that, I just felt there was such a big shift, because I think all of a sudden I had this approachability to me.
Yeah.
So that's always like with the studio and that, I'm like, anytime, come in, like it doesn't matter, like just come in there, have a chat to me. Don't feel like you have to be in there buying. I'd rather just, I don't want my artwork going into a place that it shouldn't be going into. I want you to feel the artwork, and what works for you doesn't work for me. And I can only tell you so much or what I think, but it's also, I want you to feel the artwork. And I've always said, you know, I never want anyone to sit on the fence with art. So you either love it or hate it. And I think a little bit, because if you sit on the fence, I haven't done my job. So I haven't evoked something enough in you. So I think a little bit in the way with Instagram, I sort of have done the same thing. I've sort of just provoked and, but I also tried to keep that approachability, because I feel like that's how the sales really do come. Because if they feel like they know you and they feel like they can touch you, and that isn't in a shady type of way, that I genuinely feel like, you know, they do know you, then you're 10 steps ahead just to have the dialogue with them. And I really feel like if you can get your client in to talk to you and really know about you, and you've got to give a piece of yourself over every time, but, you know, you're exhausted by the end of it, but I think that keeps the authenticity in art. And I don't feel like in the past that's really done too well. And I think Instagram's the double-edged sword. Like, it's kills you every day of the week, but it's an amazing tool as well for creatives.
Absolutely. It's super powerful. Do you feel like you've positioned your content and branding to your demographic, or your demographics become that because they're relating to who you are as a real person?
I don't think I was conscious about my demographic.
Okay.
I think, because it's funny, like some of my clients are, you know, I've got 20-year-olds to 60-year-olds. Like, I'm such a big, I'm a big personality, but I'm a big absorber of so many different things in the world. So I think everything I put out there can resonate to a whole range of people. So I don't really think I've put too much thought into my demographic.
Can you tell me an example of some actual work or people buying stuff that have just introduced to you from your Instagram?
Not most people.
Most people?
Most people, and now after these couple of years that have been great years, I've just got so many more returning customers now that are all going on to their third or fourth artwork. And, you know, I want that to be the same framing as the one that I've existing got. And can you help me? Do you think this flower, like I was talking to a client yesterday about just, you know, she wants to match up the flower from 2 years ago and things like that. So I think most of it is really through Instagram. It's one thing to get your client, but it's another thing to nurture that client. And, you know, I do go above and beyond. I do a lot of the time personally deliver the artwork. I am known to be handy, being a builder's daughter, drilling holes in a wall. You know, I drilled 6 holes in a client's wall the other day.
Is it you and your miniskirt and a big tool belt? Like, I'm trying to picture this.
No, there would have been a leather jacket on for sure. Some form of a sneaker. There might have been like a silk skirt that day. But I think I'm not only giving the product to them, I'm trying to give a service to them. And those little things really do go above and beyond. And they always feel more comfortable, and they're very appreciative. And they always end up coming back to you, even if it's not, you know, but advice, because I'm always like, if you've got other art that you want to bring in, you know, always come to me for an opinions. And I think if that's the interior design background comes through as well. And that I've always been really passionate about that, but ended up taking this course in life. But I feel like I've got a good eye to be able to match all that up. And I think clients love that.
Yeah. Look, going above and beyond, I know it's a core value of ours at the agency. And that just makes so much of a difference because people don't do that naturally,
they don't.
I think.
They feel, you know, with the product, here you go, take that, give me my money, that's it.
Especially now with Instagram and online shopping, like people expect to click a button and your product turns up.
That's right.
And you've managed to find this way where, they may click a button, but suddenly they're actually engaging in a real talk with you.
Yeah.
You're at their house, you're giving real honest suggestions on placement and, you know, you're thinking about how they live in their space and how they move through life and what's actually going to relate to them the best, yeah?
That's right. Because I care where the art goes.
Yeah.
I care the story that it will continue. Although I've created it from one story, it will take on a different life in their home and around their dinner parties and, you know, the dialogue that they have with it. So
awesome. So you've got, obviously a lot of your clients are based off that. It's individuals who like, see and appreciate your art. You sold a lot in that space. I know recently you've kind of moved into the more, gained some attention from businesses. And is it the Prairie that you recently did some stuff for? Yeah,
I did a great collaboration with them. They did a relaunch of their caviar skin cream, which is, beautiful company, beautiful people. It was funny though, that how I came about that was a client through Instagram that has just, you know, she's an amazing girl. We've just been in contact through Instagram the last couple of years, and when I came in to have the big meeting with the team, she had always remembered my stuff, and as soon as the right job came up, I was at the top of her head. So, awesome. So once again, but that all came through knowing all my things through Instagram. And I think it's great to be able to do art in a bit of a different realm and with a different with a branding base. I think it's a bit more challenging for me, I suppose, because I'm not as free. I really like the concepts, ironclad, the colouring or things like that, which, you know, generally speaking, you know, I use a lot of the blues, but I didn't particularly use that blue. So for me, I really enjoy it. It does push me and challenge me a lot more.
Like, would adaptability be a massive quality in that respect?
Absolutely.
Because you've kind of
you can sit there and say, well, this is what I do, and you know, you either take it or leave it, but that's not what I'm about. I'm most happy to, you know, really work with the client, whether that is residential, corporate, you know. Definitely. You've got to adapt. Otherwise, you're not gonna get anywhere. You're gonna lose in this type of game. Yeah. Because there's everyone else that will.
Absolutely. I think it's hard for artists too and creatives because we are so connected to the work that we produce that you do have to let go of that ego sometimes.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you kind of don't put yourself into the work, but you got to remember that the value you're providing is you're solving a problem for the client, whether that's they want nice things on the wall, or they want to look cool, or they want an amazing piece for an advertising campaign.
Yep.
That's the problem that you've got a solution for.
Yep.
It's not, I'm here, I'm the artist. Like, you take what I give you.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I've never really been in that. And maybe the study with my interior side really probably grounded that into me, because it's not about that. And I think if you are about, like, you just won't get through like that, because it's just, that's not the industry anymore. Yeah.
You mentioned you stay on top of trends and obviously different artworks, and, you know, your work, I think, has that beautiful thing of being influenced by past work, but then also staying ahead in a modern kind of way. Again, parallel that to branding. Is this going to be a conscious thing? Like, do you look for trends and think, hey, Instagram's moving this way, so I'm going to jump on this pretty quick? Or your work itself?
Depends what mood you get me when I wake up, really.
Is it just you? Is it just an evolution of who you are?
Yeah, and I as I said, I'm an energy thing. So I go with intuition. And every time I've listened or not listened, it works for me. So, and that works to the point of, do I go with that trend or not go with that trend? Or I know that the blush is in at the moment. Am I going to do the blush, or am I like? It just depends on innately what I feel about that, and I sort of just try and listen to that now and don't really think about it too much, because I've already done a little bit of the groundwork and the legwork in that, I believe.
Yeah.
With previous collections and really listening to the trends and the colours and the customer. So I think I pick that up on my own now, whether I think about it or not think about it, if that makes sense.
Or you just influence the trends with your
Wow, do we really want me to influence the trends? Oh my goodness, look out.
Hey, I started taking mirror selfies because of you, Danny. You've inspired me.
Feet selfies. No, I haven't done them from ages now, the mirror. It's the mirror one. I know, but it's so cringeworthy, but just go with it.
Man, it works, right?
But that's what I'm wearing, and that's how I feel, and
that's who you are. Just go for it.
Yeah. And and you have a bit of fun with it. That's why I think with Instagram, with the caption sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Lighten it up a little bit, like be a bit appropriate in whatever realm that is that you talk about, but just say something that's a little bit left to centre. I think the real, look at me in front of the mirror and I'm buying this and I've got this, and and it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. So I guess if someone at the moment now is an artist and they're trying to break into a particular niche or trying to look for new clients, what do you think sort of the first approach would be for that? Because we haven't really spoken about I guess connections and relationships yet. Like, how important do you feel they are?
Extremely important. That's what gets your feet in the door. Like, that's...
Yeah.
I still feel the world it's who you know, it's not what you know. Obviously, you've got to have a product, service, whatever you've got, it's got to be authentic and got your stuff together on that front. But don't underestimate relationships and who you meet along the way, and just be careful the toes that you step on, because, that's where a little bit keep your enemies close. But it's really important. It's so important.
How do you nurture those relationships?
I think it's just time and effort. Like, we're all busy.
Yeah.
And especially with event-like things, and, keeping your foot in the door with different brands or things like that, you've got to go to these things, and you've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to, talk to the room. And, sometimes that's really intimidating and really hard, but... we can make an excuse for everything, and everyone's always busy. So that's why I'm always funny about RSVPs. And if you've RSVP, you go to something. These people that pull out on the day, no matter what it is, kill me. Because I just think and it's also the time that, you're really dreading going is the time that you nail it and have an amazing coincidental meeting with someone that remembers you, and then 6 months later hits you up about, hey, do you reckon you'd be happy to do something along these lines? Or... Yeah. And it's always the time that you're not feeling it is when you find them. Absolutely. So I think people are just going to put themselves out there.
Dude, I love that you mentioned that, because I remember you absolutely freaking out before having a gulp and talk at the Provocateur event. What am I going to say? You'd written about 20 pages of things that made no sense. Yeah. And you just kind of went out there.
They're all up on the wall.
Yeah, but you got up there and nailed it, right? And I think that, like you said, the best stuff happens when you step out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
To the point where I think you need to start seeking that stuff out. Like, even I know myself, plans for the rest of the year, I'm like, what stuff am I totally terrified of doing or makes me feel sick? I need to start doing that stuff. 100%
on that front. Well, I've always said to my kids, actually, I always say, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Nothing good happens in your comfort zone. Like, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
I just don't think you meet the people. I don't think you get the feeling. Everyone plays it so safe. And I always have this joke about the white picket fence. And, that's great when you're 60, but you don't need it now. Like, you just push it. And that's where I think with the Provocateur, you scratch the surface and it even gets the white picket fence people. Yeah. So you've got to keep pushing yourself. I always find travel a big one for me.
Yep.
Hong Kong in particular. Amazing place, love it, but it absolutely strips you bare, gives you everything, and then just takes it all away from you. So it's one of those places that I love to hate. It's the total contradiction, but I'll keep going back there even when I am uncomfortable, because out of that, you know, another concept's born, another relationship has happened, another connection, another business. You've just got to keep doing that. So yeah, if you play it safe, you know, it might get you a little further, but not.
Fuck that.
And that's what I think with Instagram too. I think we're all seeing people play it safe. We're all seeing it's pretty boring. Like, it's pretty bland, some of the stuff now, because it is so orchestrated. So I like how it's doing a bit of a flip now, and it's going back to this authenticity stuff. So that's when, you know, encourage with all the video and things like that, having your face on the camera, and as uncomfortable as it is, it's true though, and it's real. And Instagram's educated people as well. Well, I follow this and that, and she does this, and so I think it's a great time, and it goes back to connection. So I want people to connect to art, to the artist, to the people that buy it, to the people that come to your house at the dinner party and talk about. I want people to connect. So I think there's a big platform for that right now.
Danielle, I've loved everything that we've spoken about so far. And I feel like we could do this for another couple of hours. But I think we wrap it up. I think that's some great insights on sort of getting into the commercial aspect of your art, not losing that fire that is there, and having that intent of connection. I think it's super important for creators
across the
as
board,
well as business. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. We're trying to evolve a community here to share ideas and experiences to help each other learn, grow, and support each other as one. To help this movement, you can do two things right now. Send this to someone who you think needs to hear it, write us a review, and share it across your socials. And secondly, most importantly, go out there right now and be the best version of yourself that you can be. Be the change you want to see in the industry. You have the power to succeed and lift people up with your art, your words, and your soul. It will take hard work, but be that warrior badass that the world needs more of. Go out there and chase your true potential.